Hi, I'm Alfred Bundy. Welcome to this special edition of Meet the Leaders. We're here in Trenton at the State House talking to state legislators. I'm proud and pleased to have a chance to talk with Assemblywoman Schepisi. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Busy day, 167 bills?
It's insanity. I mean, we have a stack of bills that is over this high.
I want to talk to you about one of the things you've been supporting as far as dealing with people in their final days,
Right.
dealing with people is trying to make sure they still have some dignity and hope. Talk to us about your bills that you've worked on in this area. I think you've even been involved with a bill with making sure that the Attorney General has a prosecutor that looks at certain types of deaths and all of that.
With respect to, and there have been a multitude of different cases as of late, including areas that I represent. We had a long-term care facility that had a lot of deaths with children, so I've sponsored legislation to try to ensure that we don't have that in the future.
And that's where the prosecutor would have to become involved?
Yeah, and that was in Wannague. We were also involved in trying to create programs and narratives for end-of-life care in general, palliative care, hospice care, and be able to really open up the discussion as well with doctors to allow doctors to understand that it doesn't mean that they have somehow, some way failed, but rather it is the best approach for people with terminal illnesses.
There's also, I think, in this budget that today you're going to make a decision about support now for more women health care. Is that correct?
It's actually interesting because they took it out of the budget and they have now made it a pure political bill, unfortunately. It's something that if it had been in the budget, I would have supported it. They have now included funding for women's health care with funding for a zoo and funding for legal fees for undocumented immigrants,
Oh, so
and have
attached-
done it as a total supplemental appropriation.
Right.
And that was a last-minute switch. Yeah, it's unfortunate because now you're being forced to, say, okay, I'm okay with millions of dollars going towards a zoo project as part and parcel of women's health funding, and it makes no sense at all.
And this is some kind of the political
Jockeying.
and interesting, I guess, tricks that can be done with a bill
Right.
or funding. Talk to me a little bit about what happens in this process. Is it just the Speaker of the Assembly and the Governor and the Senate President who really makes the negotiation after the budget is presented, or what happens?
Generally, lobbyists get involved, and there are these last-minute deals, and oftentimes the middle of the night. And so, here you had a situation whereby, had the women's health funding been in the budget as it had historically been in prior to Governor Christie doing a line-item veto of it, it would have gone through, no questions. And so it's a jockeying type of thing where it's now putting people in a position of having to potentially support things that they have no desire whatsoever to support and don't believe it's a prudent use of our state dollars, as there's no meaningful property tax relief, and you're left with this Faustian choice of, do I support women's health care or do I give a Christmas present to somebody that should not be tied to this at all? And that's part of the problem of how the sausage gets made down here.
All right. Very interesting. Tell me, people have been concerned that their fares are going up with New Jersey Transit, but service is still not quite what it should be. Is there support in this budget to improve New Jersey Transit?
I am a huge proponent of putting additional dollars towards New Jersey Transit. I represent an area that is one of the demographically most dense areas in the entire country, no less the state, and we have everyday transit issues. My office gets calls at least several times per day of trains being broken down, overcrowded, buses not showing up. It's something where we have to do better. And right now we're building massive amounts of additional housing in this state without regard to the fact that we're already maxed out on public transportation, and we're doing a real disservice to our commuters.
One of the things that the governor has been on the news, making commercials, billboards, is for a millionaire's tax.
It's
Makes
total
sense. Is that going to be in there?
nonsense. It's nonsense. We already have a millionaire's tax, and that's what people don't understand. We have the third highest tax rate in the entire nation, and we already have a graduated rate whereby anybody making $500,000 or more is already paying amongst the most in the entire country. If we wanted to do something, this budget is $4 billion greater than our budget just several years ago. $4 billion.
Wow. Say that again.
$4 billion. And so,
Higher than it was.
Higher than it was during Governor Christie's last budget. And so you sit there and you go, you know what? We've already increased taxes. We increased our corporation business tax. We have the highest taxes in the nation in so many categories. We have provided no meaningful property tax relief, and yet we're having an argument about raising taxes again just because and giving people a $125 rebate. You know, that pays my tolls and my gas to come down here for one day to vote. It's meaningless, and all we're doing is further driving people out of the state.
Just one last question. Way things look, we're going to get this budget passed and signed, or will we have a shutdown here in New Jersey?
Well, I actually sponsored the legislation that would ensure that people would not get hurt when we have these egos coming into play. We've now seen threats of shutdowns for multiple years in a row, and now we have a fully democratically controlled governor, Senate, and Assembly with another threat of a shutdown. So the bill that I introduced would be a constitutional amendment which would actually enable the state to remain open, but it would be an automatic reduction of the budget of 5% for every month that we continue to shut down. And that way parks would remain open. People would continue to get paid. We saw what happened at the federal level with a lot of workers who were hurting, who were living paycheck to paycheck to begin with. This would ensure that we did not harm the people of the state of New Jersey as the battle.
Where's that bill at? Is it through committee, or is it?
It's been referred to appropriations, but it never got posted. So it's something that I'm going to continue to push for because based upon the current climate down here and the whole Game of Thrones attitude, I don't foresee anything getting better anytime soon.
Yeah, please keep pushing that bill. I want to thank Assemblywoman Schepisi for being with us here on Meet the Leaders.